Hello, happy Wednesday. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining Greener Choices, a guide to procuring sustainable merchandise. We'll just give it a couple seconds to allow people to get in. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being with us today. We're excited to talk to you about what the association is doing to help lead a more sustainable and responsible future. And I look forward to having a wonderful conversation with Elizabeth Winbush. So yeah, let's get started. So my name is Joseph Summer. I am the founder and CEO of Whitestone. Thank you all again so much for being here today. Whitestone is an industry-leading, trend-forward brand merchandise company who helps bring our clients merchandise to life with purpose, personality, and endless possibilities. And today I am joined by Elizabeth Winbush, who is the Director of Sustainability and Responsibility for PPAI. And before I allow Elizabeth to introduce herself, I just want to share what PPAI is for those who may not know. PPAI stands for Promotional Products Association International. It is the leading trade association for the promotional products industry, a 25 plus billion-dollar industry of promotional products, corporate gifts, and custom apparel. And the association is responsible for advocacy, education, events, really helping create industry standards, which Elizabeth plays a huge role in. And of course, networking, bringing together the distributors and suppliers together. And it really is such a privilege today to have Elizabeth join us. And Elizabeth, I would love for you to introduce yourself and share a little bit more about your role at the association.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joseph. So that's a great introduction to the association. So I'm like you said, the Director of Sustainability and Responsibility here. And I come from the industry. So prior to joining PPAI around 2 years ago, I was at another distributor company similar to Whitestone in Canada. And there I managed supply chain and sustainability. So very familiar with the trials and tribulations of members as they go through these sustainability journeys. And a little bit about what I've been working on at PPAI. So I'm the first person in this role. Very grateful to have this opportunity to expand impact. And essentially, what I do is support our members, like Whitestone and our supplier members, in their sustainability journeys. So we've created some really great partnerships and business service members we bring on to help support them. Companies like Dbrand, which are an apparel and textile recycling company, Acclimate, which is a carbon accounting education and platform, several consultants, and a wide range of groups and companies just to kind of help everyone kickstart and continue on their journeys. We do have later in the presentation a QR code to some of those resources, so just wanted to call it out.
Cool. I love it. And Whitestone has taken advantage of many of the resource partners that you've brought in together, including Acclimate and Dbrand, and some consultants too. So
Awesome.
it's been cool to see your work and be the beneficiary of it in our sustainability journey. Um, so we'd love to ask everyone, kind of get things started, a quick poll. When it comes to sourcing sustainable merchandise, where you are with your organization today. Are you just getting started? Are you deep invested? We'll see kind of where people are at. I don't know if we see the live results coming in, um, but yeah, I can't totally see, but this will be good to just look at after the fact so we can kind of gauge where everyone is. But why this topic and why now? Um, I asked that question Whitestone a little over a year and a half ago, and I thought that it was important for private businesses to align with the Paris Accord, thinking that We all need to take care of our big blue dot. And I think that meaningful change doesn't have to start at the new year. It doesn't have to start with any real um, reason other than that it's just good business, and it's good to prioritize the planet, and it's good, I think, to make and be committed to daily small progress each and every day. Um, Elizabeth, what would you kind of share? Why this topic, and why now?
Very much agree. I think we all have a part to play, and business does as well. I think this is something that is increasingly important to buyers too. It's not just about feel good, save the planet vibes, but it's also good business. This is something that we're seeing increasingly with buyers and younger people coming into buying positions. It's really important to them.
Totally. And why sustainable merchandise matters. I think that a word that I heard that really resonated with me from a close peer, we don't want to be creating brand fill. And, when I think about why sustainable merchandise matters, you see the photo here. We don't want what we're creating, ending up in the landfill. And so I think for Whitestone specifically, why this matters for us is we want to be producing merchandise that is getting used again and again and again, creating items that people will covet. And we try to approach it from that lens, and also from the lens of, will this pass the kind of the 15-minute rule? Are we going to be producing merchandise that isn't going to just be used once and then kind of end up in that sad trash pile that we see here? And that's why it matters to us. Um, why else do you think this matters, Liz?
I think we're at this kind of critical moment where brands and companies have such a great opportunity to use merch to talk to their values. And sustainable merch, like you said, if it passes that 15-minute test, the most sustainable piece of merch is something that is kept and used over and over, that is ethically sourced and responsibly made. So I think that merch having a moment right now and really leaning into that and having it be a reflection of a brand or a person's values is so important.
And we do have challenges and we do have opportunities as an industry. Um, Liz, what would you kind of share are kind of the biggest challenges that we see broadly in this industry?
So, yeah, like you said, waste, no two ways, don't want to sugarcoat it. We are an industry that makes stuff, and we need to be very mindful of the waste that we're creating. Um, the perception of cost, that really good, sustainable merch costs more. And supply chain gaps, I think specifically here, gaps in visibility specifically. When I go out and I buy something from the store, I can often trace where it comes from. I can at least get more information. And our industry, it's trickier to weave through that story of where something is coming from. And the companies that are really excelling and doing really well right now are increasing that transparency in their supply chain. I think that's something that we're all collectively leaning into a little bit more, and really seeing that that help. And then, an example of that, I think tariffs, this is something that is impacting everybody right now, but having the visibility into where your products comes from. If you're buying from somebody and you feel confident that they're telling you this product comes from this country, they have the data to back that up. It really just helps build that relationship and minimize your risk exposure.
Yeah, we've run into that with the recent tariff um, going on. We were thinking we were importing Canadian items into the United States, but actually, because they had a certificate of where it came from, it actually was from China, and then we got hit with the tariff. So the more supply chain visibility we have, I think will help tell the story and help eliminate those gaps across the board. But then cost too, something that I often think about is that it's better to allocate appropriate budget than give a product that might be poor. I always think about umbrellas. and thinking that if
Mm,
someone wants to only spend $10 on an umbrella, I often advise that it's just not worth it because one gust of wind might take that umbrella away. And then where's it end up? It ends up in the landfill. So sometimes it's better not to spend at all, or, in many cases, buy fewer, increase the budget, and buy an item that's a little bit more premium that will get used again and again and again. Um,
yeah.
so what opportunities do you think we have kind of on the horizon with innovation, education, and collaboration?
So innovation, really interestingly, I've recently attended a sustainability conference that was not our industry. It was wide open retail brands, ad agencies, consultants, and I heard over and over again this idea that sustainability is innovation. We're kind of in this phase where it's almost having a bit of a rebrand instead of just calling it sustainability. A lot of what we're doing in the sustainability world is innovative work, from designing new products and figuring out how to make a supply chain more efficient once we understand exactly, we've mapped it, having a really clear picture. I think innovation really goes hand in hand with it and leads to realistically a lot of cost savings. Like you said, if you look at something that you're buying 100 of that is not so well made, and you maybe drop that to 75, but really well made, you're probably getting more ROI on that promotional product. Like, your cost per impressions. If somebody sees that 20 more times because it lasts an extra few years, that's great. Education is something that we're really big on here at PPAI as well, making sure that we have a really good, solid foundational base of knowledge for our member companies to level the playing field and make sure everybody feels good about, what does sustainability mean in promo? What does it mean for a distributor and a supplier? Um, how can they take where they are right now and put a lens of just continual progress over that? So that's something that we're leaning into, and it kind of trickles down all the way. If we have really well educated suppliers on their sustainability and that they're informing their distributor partners, then those distributor partners are informing their clients of, the advantages of sustainable merch, where it's coming from, the materials that go into it, and how this is just a significantly more impactful piece of merch. um, Collaboration, this is something that I hear over and over again. Our industry is really incredible in the pre-competitive landscape around collaboration. We've got some volunteer work groups that I have the honor and pleasure of working with at PPAI, and it's a range of volunteers from different companies that are competitors in our industry, but coming together and finding ways to advance the industry as a whole and really standardize, what certifications that we're all going after, the kind of data that we're providing, and where we have the biggest opportunities for improvement, is really huge. And I think that collaboration extends through those relationships. So from a supplier collaborating with a distributor and a distributor collaborating with their clients, like everybody coming to the table with this um, attitude that we're in this together instead of just a transactional relationship.
And something I've heard you say before is all boats lift on rising tides.
Yeah.
You certainly see that in our industry. Um, and with collaboration, something that I have been the beneficiary of is customers who are very open and collaborative with Whitestone, who have said to us, um, "You're not quite where we need you to be, but we value the relationship and we recognize you want to improve. So we're going to help you, and we're going to have quarterly calls and check-ins." I'm thinking of one client in particular who was really committed to helping us become EcoVadis certified. We set up
Mm,
quarterly calls with them, and if I don't think if it weren't for them being kind of in our corner, I don't know where we would be in our journey. And I love that trickle down effect that they are invested in our relationship, because that then in turn goes down to our supply chain as we get on board, and start to make improvements day in and day out. So I think collaboration needs to be prioritized with everyone. And it goes back to what you always say is, all boats lift on rising tides. Um, and it's something I saw yesterday. J.P. Morgan just moved into their new 270 Park office building, and when you said, sustainable business and innovation go hand in hand. I was so impressed to see that their new office building is 100% green, and just thinking
Amazing.
that's the wave of the future. I'm thinking that the largest emitter of carbon are the buildings that we live in and that we work in every day. So innovation, is sustainable business. Um,
Absolutely.
let's look at circularity and circularity in action. Um, I think circularity can mean a lot of different things. How do you approach it? What do you think about this topic?
So this is something that has gained a lot of traction in our industry. I think especially recently. You know, outside of our industry as well, but especially as we lean into this idea that circularity really is a piece of that innovation. It is taking materials that are already out there and preventing additional waste by either upcycling, reusing, and finding ways to really innovate in your product design. So, having instead of importing something brand new from overseas, paying those additional tariffs, the carbon cost of transportation and maybe virgin products being made, we have so much stuff already that's been created in the world, and finding new innovative and creative ways to use that, rebranding existing products, finding ways to reuse, whether it's textiles or certain pieces of hard goods. I think something that our industry is really leaning into right now, and it's exciting to see again some of that collaboration between clients bringing these really cool ideas to their distributor partners or suppliers offering products that have a really high uh, recycled content. I think that's something that's just so much more common now.
Yeah, we're seeing it too across the board with suppliers. And one program that we love to market and on our customers have loved too is the Marine Layer Respun program, um,
Mm.
which is phenomenal how they create shirts using recycled shirts. And I think what's really cool about this is customers have been so open to clothing drives at their events to promote the Respun program. Um, and so it's awesome to see circularity in action and come in many different forms. Tell me a little bit about some of these partnerships that you've helped identify for the association, that are kind of helping businesses like ours and our customers lean into circularity.
So, like I said, dbrand, they are a company up in Canada, but they operate in the US as well. And they are a textile recycling company. So, any kind of apparel or textile goods. We've got another one that just joined, Ultracycle. They're a company that is working with quite a few really high end and high security brands. So, they're very conscious of how products are being reused or upcycled, especially hard goods like tumblers or tech pieces, things that have been traditionally harder to um, break down and upcycle because they have so many different components in them. Um, we also have a great company in our space called Swag Cycle, and they take multiple different types of products and find really good donation partners or upcycling and recycling partners. And they really focus as well on minimizing the distance that products need to go. So they try and find organizations regional to efforts being made. And this is just continuing to grow. I think the demand for this is even a year ago has jumped exponentially, and I think it's something that we continue to work to find more partners that are really going to be a good fit in our industry, to just keep products in circulation as long as we can.
Totally. And something that well, I should say thank you because we've worked with dbrand and we've needed Ultra Cycle, so I look forward to meeting and soon working with them. But I think this positive social impact of where the end of life of merchandise goes is something that's not talked about enough, and something that I think distributors um, should have some stake in. If we're selling this merchandise, we should also be talking to our customers about what is obsolete and what is maybe not able to be used because of uh, recent rebrands, or maybe old dates, or
Hmm.
even the closet of shame. Something that I think has um, a real positive impact is how merch, if it's become obsolete, can be turned into a social give back too, um, and how that could be used in our customers' stories at the end of the year. For example, we saw a customer who had a lot of leftover blankets, and recently, after the floods in San Antonio, were donated to victims of that natural disaster. And then they can put that in their impact report and market and tell a really good story about how their excess merchandise was used in a really impactful way. We have seen customers who prefer not to have um, their goods maybe donated, and we have written a blog kind of about that. Our incredible marketer, Mackenzie, she put together this piece, why it's okay and good to donate merchandise with outdated branding. And I think we have the QR code to share, because I feel like this has been a little bit of an elephant in the room I've seen with our customers. Some want to just go right to debrand and incinerate, and responsibly dispose of. But I would always prefer to see, before the goods are responsibly recycled, that hopefully they're given a second life to people in need. Have you seen that kind of come up in your conversations? And maybe what's kind of the story that you think could be told from that perspective?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's absolutely something that can be leveraged positively by a brand. We see so much more now. We've got these environmental and social impact reports coming out by companies large and small, and this is something that, on top of minimizing the waste component, you're taking something that you've already paid for, that could go to landfill, or you can really use that as part of a campaign, part of your social good and give back. That, you know, it checks so many different boxes in one go. You're not paying additional money for that. Your brand is getting a little bit more exposure in a really positive light,
I think so too.
and you're not paying to trash it, essentially. So having that be something that you use in your storytelling, like, ultimately this is what our industry does, is we tell brand stories, and using that as a way to continue telling a story and aligning with your values is a really powerful tool that more companies are starting to use now.
And there's so many trusted partners and different donation streams, and all of them too, they give out certifications of where it went and how it was benefited, so that can end up in companies impact reports at the end of the year. So we'll make sure to distribute that blog piece after. I think it's a great read for all interested in learning more about circularity and where these pieces can go. And thinking about our circular impact initiative, Whitestone, we're committing to trying to keep 75,000 items out of landfills by 2027. I think we are almost to our goal this year, 2025. So if you have outdated merchandise or merch that is now obsolete, please call us. We will help find it a new home or help you responsibly donate it. We see this as much as our responsibility to help create new, incredible merchandise as it is to help you responsibly um, dispose of your outdated merch. Um, so let's talk a little bit about turning awareness into action. Elizabeth, what do we know buyers are looking for today, and what can we do more of?
So there are some really good stats out there that I could share. I think the one that's always stuck in my mind is a poll that McKinsey did that says 7 in 10 Americans would go out of their way to support a company that makes strong efforts to be sustainable. That's a lot. That number only increases. There's a lot of research that shows companies that are making sustainable products are also more profitable. So the market is shifting in that way. If you think about the buying habits of the largest market segment now, they're really values driven. This is something that is really important to them in all of their purchase decisions. So, from the grocery store to corporate merch, it's something that really matters. We touched on that a little bit. The supply chain transparency. Our industry has really started to lean into this and evolve and find ways to tackle that challenge, but it takes people asking. Like the most important thing in terms of an action is being curious and asking questions. If you're a buyer of merch and you work with a distributor partner, they haven't presented to you a sustainable merch option, don't think that it doesn't exist. Ask questions. If you say, we're looking to make an event really impactful, we want to get merch for it, and one of our values is social give back. What are my options? Or what of something that we're really leaning into is minimized environmental impact. Do you have anything with a lower carbon footprint? Like
It's a lot of
asking
options.
these questions, there's so many options. Um, the circularity solutions, again, this is something that I think as more people become aware of and start to ask questions, it really does ripple through the supply chain of our industry, to signal to the people making the products that this is important and this is something that buyers are looking for. Um,
Yeah,
Back to that
I
innovation,
think you
like,
said it best too. Like when you tell your partners this is important to you, it signals to the rest of the supply chain. Um, and that trickle down effect we've seen firsthand, and I think it just continues to help make us all better.
yeah, exactly. Like, don't make assumptions. Just ask questions. Always be curious. If somebody pitches 5 different things to you, what do you have in this area that speaks a little bit more to the social responsibility or ethical sourcing or recycled content? Like, there's so much. Um, and the idea that vetting, whether you're vetting somebody that you're buying from in a distributor sense or a distributor who's vetting their partners, it's really this foundation laying for a good relationship. Like if
I
I
couldn't agree more.
trust the person that I'm buying from, I'm probably going to be more open about what my goals are. Instead of just, I need to buy 100 pens for this. What are we looking to accomplish with that piece of merch? Who is our audience? What can we do around there to get creative and innovative, and maybe, like, even on here, the plan for end of life from the start, figuring out what we're going to do with that merch or where it's going to go after, I think is a really important piece, and so much of that comes from buyers. So I think it's important to highlight the people who have a lot of the influence and the power to make these changes are the ones who are making the buying decisions.
And I would love to just give permission to be vetted. We want to be vetted. We want to share our story. And I think relationships, every time that I am on the receiving end of a customer that wants to vet us, I always think that they want to strengthen their relationship with their promotional product brand merchandise partner. And oftentimes they're probably looking to consolidate their spend to people who align with their values. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I look at those opportunities as a chance to not only tell our story, but learn about what's important to them and hopefully help align what we do with causes that are important to their business and their bottom line. So permission to be vetted, and we've seen that with our tiered supplier framework, how we have begun this trickle down effect with our network as well. And I think it goes back to what I've heard you say again and again and again in our relationship is a rising tide lifts all boats, which is powerful.
Amen.
Let's talk about what sustainable sourcing looks like in real life. Um, and this is something that's close to us because I think we've modeled Rise, which is our kind of sustainability arm, kind of under this. Um, Talk to me a little bit about certifications, both on the product level and the company level, and kind of what this looks like in real life across the board.
Yeah, so that's a really important distinction to make. I think there has been historically a lot of focus on product certification, and there's a place for that. But like you've got the B Corp up on here. You're not buying a B Corp product. You're buying product from a B Corp company that is holding itself to these very high standards and has gotten certified in that. So finding certifications that really, there's so many. There's a certification for everything you can think of. Finding ones that align the most with what you value and what is important to your brand so that your brand can be telling that story with the product is really important. So you've got a few up here like fair trade. EcoVadis is huge. It's a B2B certification that really helps open up that supplier transparency as well and make sure that there is a good understanding of every piece that is touching a product throughout the supply chain. Um, B Corp is my favorite. I'm a big fan of shopping with B Corp. So, this is something you see in stores. You go to the grocery store right now, you'll see that little certified B.
You see it everywhere. Well,
It's,
if
yeah,
you're shopping in the right places.
if you're
Yeah.
shopping in the right place, it's true.
Yeah.
Um, Material transparency is huge. So, something that is happening everywhere, but I think is accelerated in our industry is the need for concrete data. So, sustainability stories are great, but they're the start. It has to be backed up with verified, accurate data. So, material transparency is really important. If you're buying a product that is recycled content, what percent recycled content? And is that verified? Can the person that you're buying it from tell you where that information comes from? Opening up those supply chains and really understanding if a supplier is making a recycled tumbler, t-shirt, anything, that they can give you the certificates that explain where that recycled content is coming from. The 100% organic cotton on here, there's a lot of concerns around cotton sourced from areas with forced labor. There are certifications around that as well. There's blockchain technology being used right now in digital product passports that is verified data. You can't alter it or change it. That shows exactly where product was farmed or spun or woven, cut, sewn into a product that you're getting in your hands. And um, there are multiple different suppliers in our industry working with companies. One of our business service members, Aware, does digital product passports. So you get a product that has a QR code on it. You scan that QR code with your phone, and it brings up the certificate that you can get the full picture of what went into that product.
Pretty cool to see. And I think
So
that's the
cool.
future. I mean, there's only several suppliers that I know that are doing that today and brands, but I think in 5 years, the majority of our industry will be um, digital with their product passports, because it's
Yeah.
becoming so easy to identify with these partnerships that the association through you has helped identify, and because customers are asking and caring. Um,
Yes, customers are asking and caring, and there's some regulatory pressure too. Digital product passports are coming online in the EU, in Germany, especially. That that's just going to continue to grow, even if you're not working in those markets. That kind of regulatory pressure ripples across large companies who want to just hold themselves to the highest standard to minimize any exposure to compliance risk. So I think that's just going to continue. Like you said, I think we'll see more and more of it.
Absolutely. And on certifications, one thing that I often think about is the power that a certification at the company level holds to help fight against greenwashing. We've seen a lot
Mm.
of products in our space that have claimed to be sustainable. Um, and I think that when I look at these suppliers that at the company level hold certifications, I know that they're using safe chemicals. I know that they're powering their buildings with clean energy rather than using bad energy and harmful chemicals, and likely they're treating their workers great too. So I think at the company level, identifying who these companies are that are doing good in their community, doing good in their own facilities, and are making products, with integrity. I really do think helps fight against what I've seen to be greenwashing, not just in our industry, but just more broadly at the consumer level too.
Yep.
So that's why I think certifications do matter, uh, both at the product level, but also too at the company level as well. Um, and that's something that we've kind of created our tiered supplier framework around, and that we've looked at, is how can we make products that are going to be used again and again and again, but also from companies that are really leading the way, in a mature and thoughtful, sustainable way. Which kind of leads me to this procurement playbook that we've thought through, and we'll share this after the fact. But really, I think something that we've tried to do is create merchandise with intention, and so thinking about how we can guide our customers to bring out the useful and unique. We like to say, bring out the you, and then asking our customers, what is the ROI or the ROE? What's this return on experience? I think what this does is it eliminates items that are just going to hopefully not end up in landfills or get used only for 5 to 10 minutes. And then asking customers what's the sourcing story they want to tell, trying to identify the journey or if they want a give back component. And I think what having some form of guide that's trained throughout the sales force, what this does is it really helps identify the why we're buying this product, why now, why us, and hoping that we can really create products with intention, and products that are going to get used again and again and again. So what we've created a little PDF, and we'll send it out afterwards. This is what our sales team likes to think about going into projects. So let's talk a little bit about myth versus reality in sustainable procurement. Elizabeth, is it too expensive?
It's not. I think this is a myth that we definitely need to bust. There is such a huge range of options now for sustainable merch. It doesn't automatically have to be, triple the price of something that you were originally thinking. But another way to reframe that is the cost of reputational risk.
Yes,
Um, Having your brand on something that doesn't feel great or cheap, that there's a risk with that. If you buy that, bottom of the barrel fill in blank promo product and then people see it in the trash with your brand's name on it, that's that's not good. It's really hard to quantify exactly how much damage that can do to your reputation. So I think that's a really good way to think of it as well. And conversely, getting something with a brand that feels really high quality, or feels, even if it isn't a huge price point, feels luxurious, that translates to positive reputation on your brand. And that, again, is really hard to quantify and measure compared to maybe the nuts and bolts of a $5 more or a $10 more item on your budget.
totally. And it's not too complicated either if you work with the right partners. Um, and I think it's really recognizing that brand merchandise is a real viable channel for marketing and advertising your business. And I think treating it like any other channel that you do, that your business partakes in, and thinking about the results, the ROI and the ROE, ultimately will help you be successful with your brand merchandise efforts. Um, so let's talk a little bit about collaboration across the industry, something that both of us are very passionate about. And you lead several committees, and you sit on several different organizations. Tell us a little bit about kind of what you're seeing across the industry, and maybe some things that our customers wouldn't be so familiar with.
Yeah. So this is, like I said, super exciting that our industry has leaned into this so much. The volunteer groups that I get to work with across the industry, there's so much trust and belief that we're working in this together, like rising tide lifts all boats. And a lot of that is around finding common standards and making sure that we're advancing the industry in a way that is going to benefit most the people who are getting our products. So if we're standardizing something, it's so that it's easier to understand. If it's a certification that we're all leaning into, if it's better understanding how to minimize waste, especially around things like packaging, having really standardized supply chain, like minimizing the impact of disruptions from tariffs or global events like the pandemic. I think that kind of leaning into it together is really happening between suppliers and distributor partners. Like you said, working with partners that have shared values means you don't have to expect perfection from the get go. You're not looking necessarily at a partner and saying, well, if you don't have this certification, then never mind. You're working with them and saying, this is what we need. How do we get there together? And, progress over perfection constantly. If you're taking a lens of continual improvement to managing the risks in your supply chain, making sure that you don't have any forced labor, that where you're sourcing products from is where they're coming from. And like you said, with safe chemicals and clean energy and um, really making sure that they're treating their employees and everyone in their supply chain with respect, to things like promo cares, which is the shirt that I'm wearing right now, um, is a great organization of what would be considered competitors in our industry coming together and finding a way to use merch really positively and build water towers in communities that desperately need clean drinking water. There's no financial or other incentive in it. These people come together as a group of really kind of scrappy do-gooders and leverage the power of their relationships to use merch to tell a positive story and give back in an incredible way. So I think this this industry collectively is so collaborative and works together so well, really leveraging those relationships. And I think it's why we've continued to grow and evolve and be relevant.
Tell me a little bit about your responsibility summit.
Yes. So we have every year a responsibility summit, which is an education and networking conference where we bring together really the top minds in our industry around product safety and compliance and sustainability and learn from each other. We have a lot of peer led education. We bring in some outside industry experts and learn from them how our industry can best not just comply, but make safe products. There's a baseline of compliance, and we always want to be above that. We want to be making products that go above and beyond. And it has continued to grow. It is led by really incredible, passionate volunteers, again, from some of those volunteer work groups that help inform the content and bring in their, leverage their relationships to bring in expert speakers. And we just had it in September, so we'll be in September again next year. And hopefully, I encourage some of you to join us there.
Well, we hope to be there for sure. And I love that the association is prioritizing this, that you are helping lead it. And I just think that for our customers to know that as an association in an industry, that we have responsibility summits, I just think is so progressive and is something that I'm just proud to be a part of in a small way. And what I'm also really proud is what Whitestone has done through Rise, responsible impact and sustainable excellence as a business, creating our tiered supplier framework, our green shipping initiative. How, as a business, we have started to, through our partnership with Acclimate, manage, track, and offset our emissions, which having a great partner like Acclimate has really made it easy to do. I think I was intimidated at first before learning about Acclimate, and I think this is something that any business can prioritize through a great partnership. We've prioritized education and having webinars like this, and building in different lessons into our LMS. And then through our 1% for the planet commitment, we are committed to helping environmental partners in our communities where we live. This is something I'm very proud of, and I think, kind of in closing, it's all about mindset. And I really do believe that meaningful change can start today. It doesn't need to start, at a new year. It doesn't need to start um, with any other reason other than that it can start today and through small daily improvement, measuring your progress, and not measuring yourself against yesterday, or measuring yourself kind of against yesterday and not perfection,
Mhm.
and being focused on small, consistent steps towards a better tomorrow. I think that um, we all can play our part, and we all can, I think, do a little bit better with the right intention, and certainly the right partnerships in alignment with people like you and the association. So I just want to say just a heartfelt thank you for being with us today and being open and all that you're doing for our industry and for Whitestone. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and creating a friendship with you. And you've played a huge part in creating Rise and helping Whitestone be a little bit better than we were. And I think that as a merchandise agency and as an industry, um, there's so many different ways to address sustainability, and you're making it easy for us to holistically do that as a business and an association. So thank you.
Thank
Um,
you. That's so good to hear. And it's really good to be here and to help, you know, find companies like Whitestone that really want to lean into it and connect you with the right resources. That fills my cup.
I know it does. Thank you. I'm curious if we have any questions from anyone. Um, Open to answering and talking about any questions that anyone has. If they have questions, you can just put it in the chat. Um, if not, we are an open book, Elizabeth and I, and we'll share our contact information so you can connect with us on. Ooh, what are ways I can safely discard of old merchandise? That's a great question. Um, Well, through our partnerships with dbrand and ultracycle, um, you can safely discard it through their process, which, for example, turns old shirts into mattress stuffers. You can safely discard it by giving it a second life, donating it. We will help you find partnerships and organizations in your area, to donate and give it a second life. Um, a really close friend just created a new 501c3 that is helping in disaster relief efforts. And sad to say that there's often disaster relief efforts in this world, and sending T-shirts or blankets or socks or water bottles to communities in need. We can help support you there. Um, the goal is to prevent you from just doing the easy way, which is going and dumping it in the dumpster. Um, we can have conversations with you and hopefully give it a second life, or repurpose it and turn it into something of value and use for this world.
Yeah, there's so many ways that you can take something depending on what kind of product it is. If the product itself is still functioning and usable, if it's an old T-shirt that you just want to recover an old brand, you've got options for printing over something. There are some really cool industry players that make really neat, like Eco Sticks makes these amazing patches and stickers that you can use to cover anything. If you've got an old tumbler and you just want to rebrand it, there's so many ways that you can either upcycle or downcycle products.
Yeah, thinking about, we acquired a company earlier this year, and they had 3,000 backpacks that had a misprinted logo, um, and ultimately the two options were putting a EcoStick patch over top, and rebranding it that way, um, or we ended up turning it into mattress stuffer through our partnership with dbrand. But the first option is try and give it a second life.
Yeah.
Any other questions? How can I get my team on board with sustainability? Um, I think that getting on board with sustainability starts with curiosity, and it starts with first, as a leader, identifying what's important to the organization, potentially certain causes that you can align yourself with or goals that the company wants to march towards. And then education. I think education, um, teaching the teams about the importance um, and just kind of approaching it from the lens of curiosity,
Mhm.
um, I think is a great start. And going back to some of the resources that the association has created, and certainly we have too. We've created different guides that can help you think about different ways to source or different questions to be asking. Starting to find these resources and then helping you, figure out what's important to you and your company. I'll share with us, how did we get our team on board? First, I think it was aligning our charitable contributions to environmental partners. And so we've always been a company that's been one that donates, but has just been maybe a little quiet about it with where we um, with what partners we want to support. And so um, I decided to align with 1% for the planet, which did change uh, our contribution strategy. Um, and as a company, through that, we've allowed our staff to pick and choose what environmental partners they align with in their communities or just more broadly. And then as a company, we're supporting them. We're supporting those organizations. We're supporting our people through that, and that was a really great way for our staff to have a part in our charitable contributions, either through in-kind donations, where we're making merchandise for those partners, or we're going out in the community and supporting their events. Thinking about Lake Austin here, we've been a part of several town lake cleanups, and then supporting some of their events as well. Um, so I think there's different ways, but figuring out as a company what's important and then creating different ways that people can get involved too.
I think
Elizabeth?
that's yeah. This being curious definitely starts with that. Finding out if you have people at your company or on your team that have a cause that they're really invested in, how can you lean into that as a company? How does it tie into your company values or your mission? I think too, something that's really important that we all need to be mindful of is celebrating wins, even if they're really small. Um, Sustainability work can feel really daunting and really big, and there's so much potential negative news. But the flip side of that is there's so much incredible work being done constantly, both small and large companies, individuals on a world stage. I think really making sure that we lift each other up and support existing efforts and work that is being done, because everybody loves a feel good story. You really want to get on board with something that is working and you're seeing progress and people get stoked about.
And I'll add to that too. When we launched Rise, we created a CSR committee, and I was blown away with the sheer volume of people at Whitestone that wanted to join the committee and wanted to help out in any way that they could. And so I think just possibly asking your team and finding out who this is important to, they're going to come and support you and they're going to come and help drive change in your organization as well. So don't think you have to go at it alone.
Yeah.
There's probably other people internally in whatever org that do want to get involved and want to help out, and that can help you identify ways in which you as a business and organization can strive forward.
Alternate answer. Watch Ferngully as a team, as a whole
Fern
group.
Gully.
Just have everybody watch Ferngully.
I have to watch Fern Gully. I don't know what is Fern Gully.
It's an incredible movie that I watched obsessively as a child. That I joke is my origin story.
Okay,
If you have one takeaway from this, go watch Ferngully.
that's my takeaway. Cool. Well, this is how you can connect with us on LinkedIn. Scan the QR code. of course, Elizabeth Wimbush, and myself, Joseph Summer. Um, and just thank you all for being with us today. Thank you for being curious, wanting to learn more. And Elizabeth, thank you again to you.
Thank you for having me.
Bye for now, everyone.